Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So I'm back with one of my most anticipated releases of the month. I love doing these videos every single month because it really reminds me of the books that I've added to my list, because some of these books I've added in 2020 and have forgotten about at this point, so it's nice to refresh them, bring them to your attention. And I do want to remind you or tell you that there is a supply chain shortage, a paper shortage, so the print runs for a lot of these books are not as high as they were supposed to be. Some of the dates have been pushed back, so I think as of now most of the ones I'm talking about, or all the ones I'm talking about, do still come out in October, but the dates may change. I've actually seen a few that were supposed to come out this month be pushed to the spring of 2022, so it's just kind of a mess right now, so it's hard to be sure that the dates will stay the same, but these are still on my radar. I'm excited for whenever they come out, and I believe they do come out in October. So let's get right to it. We'll start with October 5th, and the first one I want to talk about is The Lighthouse Wishes, and this is by C.J. Cook, I believe. Let me just confirm. Yeah, it's by C.J. Cook, and this seems to be more literary, gothic horror, which I love. And if you tell me that a horror book or a thriller is set on an island, I'm sold. I'm gonna read it. And this one is set on a Scottish island, and it follows three sisters, two of whom go missing, and then their mother goes to find them and never returns. And there's a legend that goes on that there's hauntings and that there's witches that turn children into changelings. And then I think we jump many years later to the one sister who survived. She's now an adult, and one of the sisters that went missing comes back, and she is the same age that she was when she went missing. So of course she's starting to question if she's a changeling, if this is really her sister. So it sounds really spooky. I haven't read many books about changelings, but it's really creepy to me. I am intrigued. I love the setting of this one, and I think it's going to be fantastic. I don't think I talk about graphic novels a lot on my channel, and I do read them occasionally, and I'm so excited for this one. It is called Squad, and it's by two authors, Maggie Taduka Hall and Lisa Sturl, and this looks like so much fun. It is a graphic novel, as I said, and it's YA, and we're following a group of girls who are actually werewolves, and they look to get revenge on boys who've mistreated them, mistreated other girls, and I think eventually they kill one of their boyfriends, and the cops think there's a serial killer, so they have to be very careful. And I do believe that there's a sapphic romance as well. The illustrations look gorgeous. I am just so thrilled and excited to read this. I cannot wait for this to come out. I haven't read a graphic novel that I really loved in a minute, and I have high hopes for this one. I don't talk about this on my channel a lot, and I really should. I do talk about it on my blog quite often, but I do want to try and read more Canadian authors. I love Canadian literature. I try and support Canadian authors and publishers when I can, and one of my favorite Canadian authors, actually one of my favorite authors in general, is Miriam Towes. She wrote Women Talking, and actually that is one of the first books I ever received from a publisher, and that was a few years ago. So Penguin Random House Canada sent me a finished copy of that, and I was so excited, and I read it in one sitting, was completely moved and devastated by it. And I went on to read a lot of Miriam Towes' work. My Puny Sorrows is one of my favorite books of all time. There's just something so personal and beautiful about her writing, and her newest book is called Fight Night, and on the surface it seems really simple. It is about a grandmother and her granddaughter, and I believe that the granddaughter was expelled from school, so the grandmother is homeschooling her, and they decide to assign each other an assignment, and the grandmother is writing a letter to her unborn grandchild. Her daughter is pregnant, and the granddaughter is writing to her absent father about her life and about her mother's pregnancy. And I just know that it's going to be really moving because it's Miriam Towes. So I'm really looking forward to that one, and I think it's already getting a lot of positive attention. This next one, I just saw the title and I knew I'd have to read it, and it's called Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. And I'm noticing a theme in some of the books I've talked about lately, and that is the YA about groups of paranormal girls who seek revenge on boys and men. So this one is about witches who get together, and I think they were dating the same guy, and they are seeking their revenge. I don't know too much about it. Really, this is a title buy for me, a title and cover buy. Really, it looks fantastic. And I was thinking, obviously it's very similar to Squad, which I just talked about. And then last month I talked about The Lost Girls, and that was vampires, group of vampires seeking revenge. So I might do a themed reading vlog where I read The Lost Girls about vampires, The Squad about werewolves, and then this one, Payback's a Witch, about witches, and kind of talk about them and compare them. And so let me know if you'd be interested in that. I think that would be really fun. And I need more witchy books. I'll never turn down a witch themed novel. This one is one I've talked about in my fall TBR. I will link that in the cards and down below, because I do have an ALC of this from NetGalley, and it sounds incredible. I have really been into gothic literature over the last few years, and this definitely has that vibe. It is The Death of Jane Lawrence, and this is by Caitlin Sterling. And if you like Jane Eyre or Rebecca, it definitely has that vibe to it. And our main character, Jane Lawrence, is seeking a marriage of convenience, and she marries a surgeon, and his only condition to their marriage is that she can never go to this family manor of his. And of course, as it always happens, she ends up at this manor, and her husband is there, and he's not acting like himself, and he believes that Jane is an apparition. And then they wake up the next morning and he remembers nothing, and she's obviously on a journey to figure out what is going on here. So I love those kind of things. It sounds really great. I am excited to listen to it on audio, and I've heard it's fantastic on audio already. So by the time I post this, I'll either be listening to it or finished with it. So look for my thoughts soon. The next one is a fun one and a bit of a tongue twister. It's called A Spindle Splintered, and it's by Alexi Harrow, who wrote Once Upon a Future Witches and 1,000 Doors in January, I believe, but those are both huge books. And this one is just a novella. It's 128 pages, so I think it's a great way to get a taste for the author's writing. And it's also a Sleeping Beauty retelling, which I've never read a Sleeping Beauty retelling that I can recall. So I think that's kind of fun. And the next book has already been revealed. I'll put a picture of the cover because it's really cool as well. And it's also a novella. I believe it's a Snow White retelling, so I'm hoping that the author does a series of these, because I think that sounds like a good time and a great way to get acquainted with the author's writing. And I am a sucker for a good retelling, even though they can be really hit or miss for me. So those were all coming out on October 5th. It's a huge release day. So now we're going to move on to October 12th, which there are quite a few books here as well. There are not as many coming out in the end of October, at least that I am interested in, but if I've missed any, please leave them in the comments, because I'm always looking for more. So the first one I want to talk about for October 12th is The Apollo Murders by the Chris Hadfield. If you are Canadian, you know who Chris Hadfield is. I actually think he's pretty popular in a lot of places around the world. He is a Canadian astronaut, and he's just so charming, and there's something that just draws you in. He just seems like such a wonderful person, and I've loved his nonfiction where he talks about being an astronaut, and this is his first fiction novel, which is kind of fun. And I'm getting major Andy Weir vibes from this. Honestly, I don't know too much about it, except I think it's a crime story that takes place in space. I'm gonna read it because I just adore Chris Hadfield. I actually went to see him speak when I was in university, so I have high hopes for this one, and I could go for a good sci-fi this time of year. Then we have one that has been getting a lot of buzz already, and it's Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan. And the tagline for this one is what really sold me on it. It's called His Destiny, Her Revenge is what it says. And I have really started to notice taglines lately, and that one's so simple, but it tells you really what it's about. All I know about it is that we're following two characters who are trying to seek revenge and fulfill their fates. And it's Chinese mythology retelling, and I think it's a slow burn romance. That's all I need to know. Everybody's talking about it already. I'm so excited. Now we have one that I don't think I would have put on my TBR if I had not already read a book by this author, and that is The Brightest Star in Paris by Diana Biller. And she wrote The Widow of Rose House, and I read that with my buddy read group on Instagram I talk about all the time. And I think we were all surprised by how much fun that was. It was paranormal romance, but not between a ghost and a person. It was two people and they were in a haunted house, but it was really creepy, really romantic. I loved the love interest in it. He was so sweet. And this one seems very different, and I think it's just historical fiction, but it has two of my favorite romance tropes. It has fake dating and second chance romance, and I already know I love the author's writing, so hopefully I will get to this one. It looks really sweet, a good way to break up some of the heavier stuff I have on my list. Here's one that I already talked about in my fall TBR because I do have an ALC from NetGalley, and I cannot wait for this. It's one of my most anticipated releases for the rest of the year, and it's Keeper of the Night by Kylie Lee Baker. And our main character in this is a British Reaper and a Japanese Shinigami, and she is in Britain, but there's a hierarchy between the Reapers, and she is not liked, and she's forced out of Britain, and she goes to Japan, where she becomes a goddess of death in the undergrounds. So that's all I need to know. It sounds incredible, so atmospheric, like nothing I've ever read before, and early reviews have been incredible. So yeah, that's high on my list. Maybe I'll be listening to that or read it by the time this goes up as well, because I cannot wait. And the last book on my list is one that I didn't know we were gonna get, but I'm so thrilled that we are, and that is The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. The Practical Magic series is my favorite witchy series. I'm rereading Magic Lessons, which is the first prequel, this month, and I would love to read the whole series at some point. But The Book of Magic is actually the first sequel to Practical Magic. It can get a little confusing, but if you know Practical Magic, if you've seen the movie, you know that it follows the Owens family, and they're all women, and they've all been cursed for when they hear a death beetle, their true love dies. And I think in this sequel, it's actually the conclusion, which makes me a little bit sad, and it's finally the family breaking the curse. And I think the characters from the second prequel and the original Practical Magic story all come together in this, and I cannot wait. Everything Alice Hoffman writes is beautiful. I recommend everything. Most of it is perfect for fall, so I'll be sad to see my favorite witchy series end, but I didn't even know we were getting this book, so it's a nice bonus. And then we have just two more for October 19th, and that's it for the month. And the first one is Little Thieves by Margaret Owens, and I don't know too much about this. I know Margaret Owens has a popular series, and this one has a heist, which I can always appreciate, and it's some identity theft. I think we have a very morally great character who was a maid to a princess and takes the princess's identity. Then we follow her, and then the princess trying to fight her way back to the throne. So I think that has potential to be a good time and really incredible. And this last one, I cannot lie, I added it for the stunning cover, and that is The Dark Infinity by Kate Pentecost. And I read Summer Suns last month and absolutely loved it, and the covers are so similar. I'm gonna move so I can put pictures of both of them side by side. But there's something about the flowers and the skeleton hand reaching to a human hand that intrigues me. And honestly, I don't know too much about this one other than that one of the main characters in it is cursed, which I always like. And during the day, he becomes just bones, and then he resurrects every night. And I think it's a pretty painful process. And that is really what it's about, him trying to break the curse. I think he meets up with somebody. There might be a bit of a romance, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and I'm certainly intrigued, especially when I compare the two covers. So yes, high on my list actually. So that's all the books that I'm excited for that come out in October. Let me know if you're interested in any of these, or if I missed any that I really should add to my list. Lots of spooky ones this month, which I really appreciate. And I also appreciate you watching this video. Please subscribe if you're not and like this video if you liked it, and I appreciate you all so much. Thanks again for your time. Bye for now.